Greetings TVR2A. This is going to be walkthrough video using a PC laptop for Pro Tools Lab number 4, which is called Edit Exercise number 1, also known as the glitch. The first few things before we get into this lab is you will need to download the set of instructions. You'll also need to download an audio file. That audio file will then be imported into a brand new Pro Tools session. It will be edited to fix some mistakes, and then it will be bounced out and submitted to Canvas along with the answer to some questions. Alright, let's go ahead and dive in. Again, I'm using Pro Tools Intro, which is the free version of Pro Tools. I'm using a PC laptop, which is using Windows 10. And I'm also, for this lab, I'm trying out a headset microphone, and it's the Sennheiser headset microphone combination, which I think costs about $15 on Amazon. So I'll be using the built-in mic of the headset in addition to using the earphones that are part of this headset. Okay, let's go ahead and see how this works. So you'll go ahead and get into Canvas, and you'll be clicking all the way through to week 4.3, and you'll see the assignment Pro Tools Lab 4, Pro Tools Edit 1, the glitch, and you'll be clicking on that assignment. Let's go ahead and click. Remember, do not click Start Assignment. You do that only at the very end when you're finished. Instead, go ahead and scroll down, and you'll see there are a set of instructions. This is a PDF file that you'll go ahead and download with the download button here, and then either print it out or have it readily available on your computer. It is 2 pages, but it does give you all of the mistakes that you'll be fixing, along with the script that you'll be following along with, and then some extra instructions towards the end. So I'll go ahead and let you download that. In addition to those instructions, you'll also want to download the audio that we'll be using for this session. Now you have 2 options. I did create a zip file because some computers do better with that, but I also just created the regular old audio file, which is an AIF file, which you can simply download. If you do the second one, you do not need to unzip it. So I'm going to go ahead and try this one because I think that's going to be slightly easier. And let's go ahead and download it. So I'll click the downloader button to the right of the file name. I'll go to the top of my browser. Alright, so I've downloaded it here in my browser. I'll go ahead and click on my downloads. I'll see where it is. I'll click on the folder, which will reveal where that file went, which is in my downloads folder. It's called Pro Tools Edit 1. It's an AIF file. There are mainly 2 types of files that Pro Tools works with. The first is WAV, W-A-V, and the second is AIF. Those are the 2 native formats that Pro Tools understands. I always think of AIF as being files that are more common for Apple computers, and then WAV is a little more common for PC. But I'm not 100% certain that that's still the case. I think in terms of audio quality, I like the WAV, the WAV file, best. But in this case, it's an AIF, and we'll simply be converting it into the WAV format. These, no matter what, these are both better than MP3 formats. Okay, so it's here, and what I want to do is go ahead and make sure I place it into our Pro Tools session folder that we've created for the class. And okay, now in my documents, it's Pro Tools Edit 1, and what I'll be doing is clicking and dragging this into the TVR2A sessions folder. And now inside of that folder, it's right here. Notice you see my file from our last lab is here, and now I have a new file here. And just make sure you're making some mental notes in terms of where that file is, because as you create this new Pro Tools session, you will need to go back and locate it. Okay, we are ready to launch Pro Tools. So let's go ahead and close this window. and let's launch Pro Tools. Alright, Pro Tools has opened, and now I'm going to click on New here in the left column. And we're going to give this a new name. We're going to call it Pro Tools Edit 1 and your initials. So let's go ahead and type in Pro Tools Edit 1, and I put in my initials. Verify that it is still going into that folder that we created. Remember, I mentioned the first time we set that up, it's always going to go into the correct folder unless you drop this down and change it right here. But for here, we are good. Session configuration, it should be file type WAV with a sample rate of 44.1 kilohertz, a bit depth of 16 bits, and then the I/O settings. And here I do like to come in here and change it to stereo mix. Just use the drop down arrow on the right. Check mark for interleaved. And now you're ready to click create in the lower right hand corner. So just verify that yours looks like mine. Okay, and it did bring me to a blank Pro Tools session. It even opened up my mixer screen, which is here. I could go ahead and close that off for now. Don't need to see it, but I do need to see my Pro Tools edit window, which is right here. Remember, the first thing I like you to do is always double check under setup that your playback engine is configured properly. Now remember, I mentioned today I'm going to be using a Sennheiser microphone, which is built into a pair of headphones. So my input device in this case, it says microphone Sennheiser USB. Because this lab does not actually require us to do any recording, the input device is unnecessary, since we're not going to record anything into Pro Tools. So that one we don't even really care about, so it can be set to none or whatever. But the second one, which is our output device, that does need to be configured, and for me I have my Sennheiser headphones, so it's coming through my earphones. Remember, in this case, since we're not going to be using a mic, you could choose speakers and it would play through your laptop speakers if you want. Or if you have headphones hooked up, you can just have your headphones be the output. So however you intend to listen back to this Pro Tools session, that's the output device. So for me, it's the Sennheiser USB headset that I'm using. So I just confirmed it. I didn't actually make any changes. And then click OK. Alright, now we're ready to import the audio into this Pro Tools session. The way we're going to do that is we're going to go ahead and go up to our File menu, upper left hand corner. We're going to scroll down to Import, and we're going to choose Import Audio. Alright, now we need to go locate that AIF file that we downloaded from Canvas. And remember, we put it into the Documents, TVR2A Sessions. I'm double clicking, and then the file is the one called Pro Tools Edit 1, and now it's a single click. You'll see it places Pro Tools Edit 1 here in this pane on the left side. You're going to click Copy Files, which is just beneath this column. When you do that, it's going to place it over to the right-hand pane. And then at that point, you can go ahead and click Done. So again, I clicked once on Pro Tools Edit 1, which placed it on the left panel. I clicked Copy Files, which is the one below the list. It placed it on the right side pane. Now I'm ready to click Done. It's going to ask me where it wants to place the audio, and remember, on this window you click in the left hand corner, Use Current Folder. And now the audio import options window is asking, do you want to place a new track and put the audio into it, or would you just like to put the audio into the clips list? By the way, the clip list is right here, the right hand column, and you may or may not see that depending on if you are hiding it or viewing it. It's this lower right hand corner arrow. So the clip list would put the audio here, and then you would have to manually drag it into your edit window. What we're going to do is choose new track, so Pro Tools is going to do this for us. So click OK. And Pro Tools just created that track, which is a mono audio track. It's a little small, so I like to go to the bottom of that track line right here, get the double-headed arrow, and just drag down a little bit so I could see it. And then if I wanted to zoom in a little bit, I could go ahead and use our shortcut, which is T. T is a zoom in. I just did a few. I'm going to do one more, so I'm looking at seconds up here in the timeline. And remember, those shortcuts only work if you have the keyboard focus activated, which is this yellow AZ. So make sure it's yellow and it's not gray. All right, so now I have it in here, and the cursor's flashing. I'm in Smart Tool mode. Remember, that's all 3 tools activated at once. I'm in slip mode, which is over on the left-hand side. We'll be changing slip to shuffle. I'll talk about that. And then here I have my timing, which is my counter, set to minutes and seconds. Remember, you can always change that if you don't see it. So just make sure you have a check mark on minutes and seconds. And then again here, the upper portion here, to get that, make sure you're clicking here and that you have a check mark on minutes and seconds. I'm also going to deactivate the meter and the tempo because we don't need to see those lines either. So I just have a little ruler at the top for my timeline. Very good, folks. Well, let's do the enter key, which takes us back to the beginning. And let's go ahead and double check what my output is going to be. Now, the output is easily accessed if you go to Control equals key, and that will take me to the mixer. And what I'm verifying here is the I/O section. It says output, and here it's set to my speakers 1-2, which in essence is my headphones. Let's see if I go back now and enter key to the beginning and then space bar to go ahead and play it.
When editing audio material, the object is to correct mistakes, including mispronounced words,
Let's go ahead and
coughs,
listen to the whole thing.
extra phrases, papers rustling as a page of copy is turned over, or any other unwanted sounds. Many times an announcer can be made to sound better than he or she really is.
Okay, I see a little problem there.
This is accomplished by careful editing. Editing can also be done to shorten a program to a prescribed length. Digital editing for audio purposes is accomplished with a computerized application and workstation. Be sure you understand the digital audio application you're using. It is easier to avoid a mistake than to correct one.
Okay, so I let the whole thing play. Now there's one thing that happened for sure that we want to check out. You notice that as it played, when it got to the end here of the page, the cursor just kept going and then I didn't see it update. And that's a scrolling setting. So we can go ahead and fix that so that as the cursor moves off the page, it will then redraw the screen and then the cursor will be back on the left. Okay, that's an options menu. Go to the options menu. Go down here about the 5th thing and it says edit window scrolling. Notice I had a check mark on no scrolling. What we want to do is check mark on the word page. And now when it gets to the end of the page, for example, I'll start it here with the space bar.
Careful editing. Editing can also be done to shorten.
You see it just moved the cursor all the way back to the left-hand side and then it redrew the screen. That's ideally how we like to work. So that was a scrolling setting. Alright, so you heard the whole thing. Notice there's some dead space, there's some mispronounced words, there's a random like slide whistle moment. So there's a few little things we're going to fix, and that's why this is called the editing lab. Okay, and again, in the PDF file of the instructions, you will see that whole paragraph written out, and you'll see bracketed numbers where there's issues. And what we're going to go ahead and do is jump right in and start to make some of these edits. So the very first edit is that second and a half of silence at the very beginning. You can see it shows as a straight line right here. Now we're going to cut that out. We're going to delete it, for example. So let's go ahead and remove. Now I'm going to show you different ways to do the same thing, and it's sort of up to you in terms of how your workflow wants to work. But in Pro Tools, there's often 3 or 4 different ways to do the exact same thing. It just depends on how you want to proceed. So the longest way to do this edit would be to grab the trimmer, which notice if I'm in Smart Tool, it automatically turns into the trimmer tool, which is that bracket, when I go to the left edge of that clip. So notice if I go to the right, it's just a cursor. But if I go all the way to the left, it turns into that sideways bracket, which means it's a trim tool. So if I wanted to trim it away, what I'm going to do is click and hold with my mouse. I'll drag to the right and I'll release the mouse. You can see it just deleted or removed that dead space from the very beginning. But now I'm left with a space, which means now I have to manually grab the clip. Notice it's turned into the grabber if I go down towards the bottom. That's the hand. I'll have to single click and hold with my mouse, and then I drag over to the left until it stops. And now I can go ahead and hit the space bar.
When editing audio,
And now there's no dead space at the very beginning. Easy. That's edit. That's our very first edit finished. Now I did mention Pro Tools lets you do the same thing multiple ways. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do that much quicker. So I'm going to go ahead and undo what I just did. Control and Z. So Control Z a few times and that will bring me back to my unedited clip. So now I have that dead space in the beginning. Now watch what happens when I go ahead and change edit modes. Upper left hand corner, I'm going to go ahead and click on Shuffle. Now Shuffle mode is unique because when I make an edit using a shuffle mode, this means that it's going to pull the clip over to the left so that it does not have any space in between. And what I mean is it's going to, well, let me just show you what I mean. So I'm in shuffle mode. I'm going to go in the same tool, which is Smart Tool. I'm going to click with the mouse with the trimmer. Now watch what happens when I release. See, when I let go of the trimmer, not only did it remove that dead space, but then it also pushed the clip all the way to the left-hand side as far as it could go. And that's called shuffle mode. So Enter key, space bar.
when editing audio material,
So that's a faster way to make that edit, isn't it? So just watch out, because when you're in shuffle mode, you cannot freely push clips to the left or to the right. It always has to snap to the nearest clip edge. So shuffle mode. And we're going to use shuffle and slip kind of for different purposes. So in essence, you can decide which of those ways were easier and then proceed. Now I'll even show you a third way. I'm going to do Control Z, which is my undo, and I'm going to go back into slip mode. And now I'm going to even do it a more awkward way where I'm going to select that portion, and then I'm going to use the backspace key. And notice it just deleted it, but I would still have to grab it with the grabber and then slide it over. So that's a way to do it without even using the trimmer tool. All right, so I do like shuffle for this move. So I'm going to go ahead and go back quickly, make that edit. And now I'm ready to move on
when editing,
to the second edit. The second edit happens after she says, many times an announcer can be made to sound better than he or she really is. And there's a little bit of an awkward silence, and it should be right around here, which is about
she really is.
19 seconds.
This is a
So right around the 19-second mark, she takes a breath, but then she doesn't speak. So in this case, I want to retain that breath sound, but I want to get rid of the dead space after it. So I can see the breath is right here, but the dead space is all right here. So this is another good use for shuffle mode, because when I make this cut, watch what's going to happen. I'm going to highlight it this time because I'm inside of the clip. so there's no trimmer. Highlight it, and I'm going to do the backspace key again. And you see how, because I'm in shuffle mode, it just grabbed the clip and it pushed it all the way to the left-hand side so that the clip edges meet. And then I back up with the cursor. I hit towards the top, which is in essence my selector tool, but it also places the cursor in the clip, and I'll do spacebar.
She really is. This is accomplished by careful editing.
That's pretty good, isn't it? Now, if you want to get a little more fine-tuned, you could zoom in a little more with letter T, and now you can start to see, oh, there is a little bit more there. Now this gets really interesting because now I am going to use trim tool. I'm going to trim that out, but now what happens when I let go? And that's because I'm still in shuffle mode, is it grabbed the clip on the right and it dragged it over to the left.
It really is. This is accomplished by...
That's pretty good. So I'm pretty happy with that one. You could also trim from the right hand side, which is the right clip. I could even do something like this. And now let's see.
She really is. This is accomplished by...
All right, that's pretty good too. So you can decide how close or how natural you think it sounds. Once you're happy with it, you can then go ahead and move on to the next edit. Now I'll do letter R, which is my shortcut to zoom out. And I'll go ahead and hit spacebar and I'll let it play until the next edit, which is going to happen when she says digital editing for audio purposes.
She really is. This is accomplished by careful editing. Editing can also be done to shorten a program to a prescribed length. Digital editing for audio purposes is accomplished...
Oops, so she had a little mispronunciation of a word right in here.
Digital editing for audio purposes...
Okay, so for audio purposes, that's good, but this bit...
For auto
perp is bad.
For auto perp...
I'm going to go right where she says for auto perp. I'm going to highlight it. I'm using selector tool, which is part of the smart tool. I'm going to go all the way up to here. I'm going to let go. And remember, I'm still in shuffle mode, upper left hand corner. I'll do the backspace key. Got rid of it, but it also pushed the clip that was on the right all the way to the left so that the edges meet. And then I'll back up and listen.
Digital editing for audio purposes...
Nice. You can't even tell that there was a cut in there.
Digital editing for audio purposes is accomplished with a computerized application.
So now we have a weird slide whistle moment. Somehow that's just random.
Application and
all right, so it's supposed to say is accomplished with a computerized application and workstation. So all those words are supposed to run together. There's not supposed to be this weird slide whistle and timpani sound. So let's chop that out. Again, I'm staying in shuffle mode.
Application.
So this is interesting. So I'm going to do this, and now I'm going to use another shortcut called letter B, which is break. So I have my cursor flashing. Letter B makes a break, and now I go to the end of the edit.
And work.
Which is right here. I'm going to place the cursor there. I'm just single clicking, by the way. I do a letter B again. And now look, I have this piece right here. And that's the random sound effect. And I'm going to get rid of it. So again, because it's highlighted, and I did the highlight by clicking with the grabber towards the bottom of the clip, I can now do backspace. And because I'm still in shuffle mode, it grabs the clip on the right and it forces it all the way towards the left, right to that clip.
Computerized application and workstation.
Nice. You can't even tell there was an edit, and that's like in 32 seconds right there. So that one sounds really good. So I'm really happy with that one. Let's see what the last one is.
And workstation. Be sure you understand the digital audio application you're using. It is easier to avoid a mistake than to correct one.
All right, and then we have this long little dead space moment at the end. It's about 4 seconds of silence, and we want to trim that away. And in this case, I'll go ahead and go to the right edge. Again, I'm kind of in the center. You don't want to go towards the top because it'll turn into what we call the fade tool. But go ahead and click and just drag this over to the left, and don't cut too much off, and then listen to it.
mistake than to correct one.
Very good. Now if I hit the enter key, I could go ahead and play that whole thing and give it a listen. All right, I'll let you do that. Now you'll notice in the instructions that does get me all the way through the second page, even the second page. There was a little bit mentioned in step 5 of something called a scrubber. I'll go ahead and show you what that is. But pretty much those were all the edits. But then when you get to step 11, it does say now there's the challenging part. That's interesting. So step 11 actually says there is something else in here that we have to fix that I didn't actually give you a specific location. And that's why this lab is called the glitch. Okay, before we get into the glitch, I do want to introduce you to the scrubber tool. Now the scrubber tool is this tool right here, which is to the right hand side of the grabber tool, which looks like a hand. And you'll see it resembles a speaker with some sound waves coming out of it. So it's a single click, and now the cursor turned into a speaker icon. And what that means is I'm now going to click with the mouse. I'm going to hold the click down.
Mistakes.
And now if I scroll to the right, or if I move the mouse to the right,
Including
it plays just that portion of audio where the cursor is, and that's called scrubbing. And you can also go backwards, by the way. I could go to the left.
Correct mistake.
Interesting, isn't it? So that's the scrubber tool. What that allows you to do is get very let's say that you wanted to make a cut here, but you weren't sure what sound was at that moment. You could kind of focus in on the silence, and then you could decide, all right, that's exactly where I want it. So the scrubber tool just allows you to move the mouse, and wherever that cursor is, it plays that audio, which is right below the cursor. So that's scrubber tool. I'm going to jump back into Smart Tool. And now we're going to go ahead and do a save. So if you go File menu, you could do Save Session. You can also do Control S as your shortcut. Control S. And that just helps save it in its current format, just in case we were to have like a crash or something. We don't want to lose all of the work that we've done. All right, so I'm happy with all my edits, but step 11 does say now the challenging part, you'll need to listen back to the whole track and then attempt to find there's a weird glitchy sound. Now the glitch is sort of like a little staticky sound. It kind of goes like, and it's very quick and very short. So you're going to go ahead and spend some time now. You'll go ahead and pause the video and listen very, very carefully to the audio and try to locate this glitch. Again, it's very fast. It happens when she says a certain word, and it's a staticky white noise type sound. It goes very short, very fast. All right, so go ahead and pause the video, and then when you come back, I'll go ahead and let you know where it is. All right, and we're back. Let's see, did you find it? All right, I hope you found it. The glitch happens when she says the word be sure, which is right around the 32, it's like 33 second, right in there, 33, 34. It's right in that area, which is basically right in here. So what we're going to do is back up and listen and see if you can hear that little static glitch that I'm speaking about.
Workstation. Be sure you.
Do you hear it?
Be sure you. Be sure. Be sure. Be sure.
Right in here.
Be sure you. Be
you can hear it goes right when she says the word be, and it goes and then she says sure. So now your job is to try to fix that, and you can do anything you want. You can try cutting, you could try fading that I'll show you. You could even think outside the box. Now there's multiple ways to try to fix this. this is an artifact which is part of the audio file, and because it happens when she says the word B, and I'll go ahead and do letter T to zoom in just a little bit more.
Be sure.
You can't just decide that you want to cut out where the glitch is, because when you cut it, and I'll go ahead and get out of shuffle so we see what's happening. I just hit the backspace.
Be sure you understand. Be sure you.
You see, I got rid of the glitch, but by getting rid of the glitch, I also got rid of some of the B, and then the sure sounds a little bit unnatural. So that sounds awkward. If you listen to it,
be sure you
can hear kind of made a cut, so it's obvious that there was some sort of cut there. So I'm not happy with that. So let's get Control Z back to where it was, which is this.
Be sure you.
So there's outside the box edit, which would be, well, what if she uses the word be maybe in another part of the script? And that's where you look at the script and you'll see she does say right here where it says many times an announcer can be made. So she says be there. So you could try to go locate the B. Okay, so let's say that it's somewhere in here.
Many times an announcer can be made. Be made. Be made.
Be made. So right in here she says be. But it is awfully quick. So you could decide, all right, that's it. Now, if I think that this might work, just for example, I would copy that, okay? And the copy is Control C. So copy Control C, and then go back to where we were at, which was like 33, right in here somewhere.
Workstation. Be sure you.
So it's right in here.
Be sure.
So this is the B. So what I'm going to do is highlight it, and I'll do Control V, which will paste in that other B.
Be sure you under. Be sure you under.
And that sounds a little weird too, doesn't it?
Be sure you understand.
So that sounded a little weird. So, but that is an option. You could go through and try to find anytime she says the letter B, the word B. I think there's even a third time she says it. I'm looking at the script. Editing can also be done to shorten a program. So she does say the letter, she just says the word B again. Anyway, people have fun with that, trying to grab the word B and just paste it right in there. Right? I am going to undo that because I'm not happy with that either. All right, other things you can do. Now I'm going to show you the new tools, which is the fade tool. Is you could go ahead and do some sort of quick fade on that section. So I'm going to do letter T so I can zoom in a little closer. And I can start to, I mean, you could really zoom in. And when you zoom in enough, you'll start to see the glitch, the static is sort of like right in here. You can see it looks a little unnatural, right? And as I really zoom in, you can see that something definitely looks funky. That little tiny spike right there. But what I'm going to try to do is isolate where that happens and make a break.
Be sure.
It feels like it's right in here.
Be sure. Be sure. Be sure. Be sure. Be sure. Be sure. Be sure.
So let's say that it's right in here.
Be sure you.
I'm going to do letter B, which would just make a break, but I'm not going to get rid of anything quite yet. And I'm going to figure out if this is okay here where she says sure.
Sure.
So sure is good. I'm going to make another break right there then, like this. So now I have this piece, but I don't necessarily want to get rid of it. I just want to work with the glitchiness of it. So let's see what happens if I do something like this. Now this is upper right hand corner. Notice it turns into a little square, and that is the fade tool. And when you drag to the left, it fades or turns down the audio of that clip.
Be sure you. Be sure.
That's interesting, isn't it?
Be sure.
So it got closer. Now you're going to do a lot of Control Z's because you're going to try different things to make this work. So that was one way. I'm going to zoom in even a little bit closer here. And maybe I could even do something like this. Maybe not quite as much. I can hear, now watch what happens. I have a fade designer where I can click right on that diagonal line and it can actually slope it. It's getting closer, isn't it? Let's zoom out and listen. Now I think we're getting somewhere. So if you could get it even that close, then you would consider yourself pretty successful, that you've gotten rid of the glitch, and it doesn't sound too artificial, although it doesn't sound 100% natural. And you could spend hours sort of fine-tuning that little glitch, fine-tune the fade, or if you're going to delete it, or whatever you choose to do, you have a lot of options in there. I just showed you one way by using that fade tool. Now the fade tool does pop up on the corners of clips, and it's either at the front of the clip or it can also be at the back of the clip. So for example, you have a fade tool there too, so you could also go to the top and fade that out. Now this is going to sound obviously weird. Yeah, that sounds horrible, so that's not good. But you do have the fade tool. Anytime it pops up like a little box, you can click and drag either to the left, or in this case you could drag to the right like that. Okay, but obviously that's not what I want either. Now if you ever go towards the bottom, you will get a different type of fade. It's a black, little dark black box. See if I can get it to pop up. That one is a crossfade tool. Now look with that one, it draws a fade out and a fade in at the same time, which again is not something I want, so I'll undo that. But that does give you some ideas in terms of placing those fades in with the fade tool. Now I will give you one word of caution. If you do use the fade tool, you cannot fade on top of a fade. And this is what I mean. Once you place the fade in here, you cannot go to the top and do another fade. It doesn't even give you the option. Okay? So you can only put one fade in on a clip. You cannot fade on top of a fade. So anytime you're trying to grab the fade tool and you notice, hey, how come it's not showing up? It's because you've already placed the fade in there. You can't do it. Now if you wanted to get rid of a fade you've placed in there, you can click with the grabber, and now you can do that backspace key, and all it does is it removes the fade. So that fade that you had in there. Okay, but I liked what I did, so I'll go ahead and do a redo. So I'll go ahead and do my, oh, it's not going to let me do undo clear. Let's try that one. There we go. So I'm right back to where I was.
Be sure you understand the digital audio application you're using. It is easier to...
All right, so again, that was about at the 33-second mark, which is right about here, 34-second or so. I did a fade and then I manipulated it a little bit.
Be sure.
And then I even did this. I changed the slope.
Be sure you.
And maybe if I try this just for fun.
Be sure you.
All right, it's pretty close. So again, I got rid of the. All right, so that will take care of that assignment. You'll go ahead and spend a lot of time working on that glitch and get rid of it as best you can with any technique that you feel like trying. And then once you're happy with your result, you'll go ahead and finish the assignment. Now the finished assignment has to do with bouncing this session to an MP3. So you're happy with it. I'm going to zoom out so I can see the whole thing on the screen. I can hit Enter key. Keep zooming out with letter R. That's the whole thing. Mine comes in about 41 seconds long, and I can see all my cuts, my breaks throughout. And now we need to go ahead and bounce this. Now remember, the bounce is similar to like an export or a render. But right now this is a mono track, and when we bounce it, it's going to turn it into a stereo track. So let's go ahead and go through those processes. So first step is I would do Control S. So you saved it. Second step, you're going to go to the top, which is where your timeline is, You're going to go to the end edge and you're going to click, and then you're going to drag all the way to the left so that you highlight that amount of time, which is basically from about 0 to 41 seconds. So you need to highlight the whole thing before you do your bounce mix. Make sure you don't accidentally have any buttons pushed over here, like you don't want M or I or any of these pressed. You don't want the record button pressed. But now you do go to the file menu and you're going to go down to where it says bounce mix. Single click. You're going to get your bounce mix window. In here you're going to go ahead and give this a name. Right now it says Pro Tools Edit 1 GD, so that'll be the name of the MP3, and that's fine for now. The file type is going to say MP3. The mix source is going to be your main outputs, which for me is speakers 1-2. The audio format is going to be interleave. Now remember, if you don't see interleave, you just need to click the drop down menu and check mark it. The bit depth is unable to be changed. Sample rate will be 44.1 kilohertz. And then down here is the location. Right now file destination is set to the session folder, which is called bounced files, and that is going to be a session folder which resides inside of this Pro Tools Edit 1 session. And then lower left hand corner, make sure you have a check mark on the word offline. And now you can click bounce. It's going to ask you to give it a MP3 name. This is only useful if you're going to put this into like iTunes or some sort of MP3 player. So in essence, we're not really concerned with the way that looks. So I'll just leave mine alone, Pro Tools Edit 1 GD, and then click OK. Okay, you'll see that it quickly rendered that file. It's finished. You can now go ahead and close and quit Pro Tools. So we can go File menu, and we can choose Exit or Control Q. Do you want to save it? Yes. Alright, it's now been saved, and now you want to go locate it because you want to listen to it before you submit it to Canvas. Now remember, that's going to be in your documents folder, so I need to go ahead and locate my documents. Here we are, TVR2A sessions. It's going to be inside that folder. Double click. And now you're going to go inside of the edit session folder, which is now this third one. It says Pro Tools Edit 1 GD. That's the Pro Tools session. And then that's the session right there, by the way. If I wanted to reopen that Pro Tools session, I could double click right here and Pro Tools will launch again. I don't want to do that. But I do want to go to the bounce files folder that Pro Tools has created, and it's a double click. And there it is, Pro Tools Edit 1 GD, and it's an MP3 file. Now remember, last time we did try to play this. I'll go ahead and double click and see if I can get it to play. It's going to launch the VLC. There it goes.
Material, the object is to correct mistakes, including mispronounced words, coughs, extra phrases.
You get the idea. So you go ahead and listen to yours to make sure it's the right file, and then also make sure that you're actually happy with the edits as they were finished. That's just sort of like previewing it before I submit it to Canvas. So remember where that is. You will need to go and find it. Alright, now we're going to go back to our Canvas assignment. We'll go towards the top. Also note there are some questions here that you'll go ahead and answer. But we're going to click Start Assignment. And then scroll up until you see the rocket ship. You can choose the file, or if you know where it is, like I know where mine is, I can click and just drag and drop it. Alright, so I just dragged that MP3 file. It says Pro Tools Edit 1 GD MP3. And now before you submit it, you go to that comments window, which is right here. you can enlarge it. And this is where you're going to answer those questions, whatever they were. And there's 6 of them. If you find it easier, you can always highlight them, right? You could go like something like this, and then you could just type in your answers if that's easier. But you're going to do all of that with all of those questions answered. Your file's already attached, and only now do you actually click Submit Assignment. And then when you click Submit Assignment, you'll now see Canvas will give you congratulations, success, and you'll see some confetti go down. And that's it. I'll get it on my end and then give you a grade. All right, that's it, folks. Congratulations. And again, at any time you can pause this video, go backwards, and look at any of those things again. Take care and enjoy.